A question was brought to the text. A child asked the father, "Will you reveal to me my biological dad?" And the text answered. The first verse drawn was Acts chapter 9, verse 38. Lydda being near to Joppa, the disciples having heard that Peter is in that region, sent 2 men to him, calling on him not to delay to come through to them. Hear what that verse does. It speaks of nearness. Lydda is near Joppa. The one sought is close. And the ones who seek say, "Do not delay." That is the frame the Father sets over this draw. What you are looking for is not across a wilderness. It is down the road. And the sending has already begun. But the second verse drawn stops everything. 1 Samuel chapter 4, verse 3. Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh to us, so that, when it comes among us, it may save us. The ark came. And Israel fell that day. The Father places that warning at the threshold, before the promises begin. Before I tell you what I will do, know who I am. My presence is not your instrument. You do not fetch me. I come. The posture this draw asks of you is Exodus chapter 33, verse 11, where the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. Friendship, not leverage. That is the difference between priesthood and presumption. Now the promises begin. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 25. This is what the Lord declares. Even the captives of the mighty will be removed, and the prey of the terrible will be delivered, because I will contend with him that contends with you, and I will save your children. The Father speaking in the first person. I will contend. I will save your children. Before you know the name of the man, you are told you are not orphaned. The one who fights for you has entered the fight. And how does the revelation come? Enoch chapter 48, verse 9. The wisdom of the Lord of spirits has revealed him to the holy and the covenant faithful. The verb is revealed. The recipients are the faithful. Exodus chapter 33, verse 11 again, face to face. And 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 10 promises that when what is perfect has come, what is in part will be done away. The gap in the record, the missing name, that partial knowing is not the final word. A fullness is coming that displaces the fragment. The draw is saturated with fathers and sons. Genesis chapter 47, verse 29. The time drew near that Israel must die, and he called his son Joseph and said, "Put your hand under my thigh and deal with me in loving kindness and covenant faithfulness." A father calls his son. The oath is sworn on the seat of seed. 2 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 1. Solomon brought in all the things that David his dad had consecrated and put them among the treasures of the house of Elohim. A son receives what the father set apart and completes it. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, because I have seen among his sons for myself a king. The father looks among the sons. He sees. He chooses. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 5 speaks of those who come out of the loins of Abraham. Numbers chapter 1, verse 20 records the children of Reuben by their genealogies, according to the house of their father's lineage. The text records biological descent and preserves it. Your question is answered in the very idiom of your question. And the timing. 31 verses carry the appointed season. Luke chapter 1, verse 57. For Elizabeth the time came for her to give birth, and she gendered a son. The time came. Not approximately. It arrived. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 15. So again have I thought in these days to do well to Jerusalem and to the house of Judah, fear you not. Daniel chapter 9, verse 19. O Adonai, listen and do, defer not. Esther chapter 6, verse 10. Hurry, let nothing fail of all that you have spoken. The draw is not saying yes, eventually. It is saying the time has come. But the text does not sing in one key. Psalms chapter 36, verse 1. The rebellion of the covenant wicked affirms within my heart that there is no fear of Elohim before their eyes. Someone in this story may have walked without that fear. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 15. I will feed them with wormwood and give them water of gall to drink. The knowing may be bitter. Hosea chapter 13, verse 8. I will meet them as a bear bereaved of her cubs and will tear the caul of their heart. Hear this plainly. The yes may hurt before it heals. But Zechariah chapter 13, verse 9 gives the sequence. I will bring the third part through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and they will call on my name and I will hear them. Fire first, then the hearing. And the ark was brought up with shouting and the sound of the ram's horn. 1 Chronicles chapter 15, verse 28. David blessed the people in the covenant name. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 18. The sacred blessing of the Lord shall be given in their mouths to bless all the seed of the beloved. Jubilees chapter 31, verse 9. The seed, the beloved, the blessing spoken over them. The mathematical witnesses confirm what the text declares. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood stands at 7 1/3 sigma above baseline, a strong anomaly by every gate. The guided draw probability returns an extreme reading. The multi-channel convergence has crossed threshold with 6 of 6 channels active. These numbers do not speak. They bear witness. The text is the judge. The Spirit is the author of both. One tension must be named. Joel chapter 2, verse 14. Who knows if he will return and feel sorry, and leave a sacred blessing behind him? That verse does not cancel the yes. It frames it within holy deference. The verdict is probably affirmative, 98 1/3%. It is not absolute. The Father reserves the right to exceed the draw or to extend the season beyond your calendar. Build your hope on His faithfulness, not on a date. Genesis chapter 42, verse 24 may tell you how the revelation arrives. He turned himself away from them and wept, but then returned and talked with them. The disclosure may come through a turned back and a wet face before it comes through a spoken name. Joseph wept before he was known. So here is the answer, between the porch and the altar. The Father is inclined to reveal. The nearness is real. The sending is in motion. The appointed season has drawn close. Walk while you have the light. John chapter 12, verse 35. Deal with your slave according to your goodness, and teach me your statutes. Psalms chapter 119, verse 124. That is the prayer for the days between the sending and the arrival. And when the knowledge comes, whether it tastes of honey or of gall, stand in the covenant. The Father who contends for you will not leave you in the dark. He will do it for His own sake. Let nothing fail of what He has spoken. Selah. The verses drawn in this Shield 17.14 session were Acts chapter 9, verse 38. 1 Samuel chapter 4, verse 3. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 21. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 25. Psalms chapter 36, verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 37. This concludes today's interpretation under the Shield Protocol.